So everybody should be looking at a piriformis syndrome. Don't know why. Yeah, exactly. Alabama, I'm in a hurry to get things done. So much to do. Let's turn the music down here and go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk about piriformis syndrome. There's a few key things to get. Number one, I believe, and the literature might support this as well, that this may be one of the most overdiagnosed conditions that we see in the hip region. So what is it technically? It is a neuromuscular disorder where we get compression of the sciatic nerve as it comes under the piriformis. Usually the piriformis muscle, there are variations here though. So what we see typically for our basic anatomy, it goes nerve roots coming from the intervertebral foramen and sacral foramina. They then run out and come out underneath the piriformis itself. And as they come out, piriformis may compress, but there is variation here where, and this was, I believe, a study of over 2,000 donors looking for how the piriformis and sciatic nerve relationship actually occurs. 87% of the time, that is exactly how it goes. 10%, it tends to be coming through. One of the divisions comes through. And about 2%, it actually splits around the muscle. So back to the piriformis syndrome itself. Estimated incidence of sciatica, 6 to 10% of the general population. But these numbers vary widely. Peak incidence, yeah, roughly 30 to 40, but can happen at any age. Usually you're going to have to be an adult for this to be there. Some research suggests females way more common than males and may be associated with these anatomical variations. Number one history finding, though, is a history of prior trauma. Blunt trauma or fall to the gluteal region where you've actually impacted and damaged that nerve. We can also be looking at sleeping positions. Some people talk about wallet position, although there's controversial research on that. Anatomical variations in the nerve as it runs through. So those are some of your risk factors there to be aware of. In your history, you are looking for a detailed assessment where they have buttock pain. So they may have tenderness, especially as you palpate deeper over top. I'm just going to scooch this over to this side, where you might palpate over top of the piriformis, and you would notice some increased tenderness with that. Or worse with the walking legs, squatting of the hip where they start to stretch out or have a low tolerance for sitting. Yeah, when I'm sitting down, doc, I start to notice the pain in my leg and in my glute is actually a little bit worse. Usually for piriformis syndrome, though, the pain does not go past the knee. And that's kind of a key thing for us to get. Patients may walk in and have that antalgic limp. So they're a little bit of a gait where they're shuffling in if it's extremely acute or aggravated at that time. The foot itself might be externally rotated as the action of piriformis is lateral rotation. So you might see that. But the best finding, the key for diagnosis is tenderness over the piriformis when you push on it. And it is usually not bilaterally symmetrical. It's usually unilateral, although it can occur bilaterally. By far and away, it most commonly occurs just on the one side. So a couple of other key things for us to get. You have to be able to palpate piriformis to actually diagnose this condition or look at diagnostic imaging potentially. But most of us in our clinics are not going to have diagnostic imaging available to look for this. So you are going to palpate the outer lateral margin of the sacrum, and then you're going to find the upper portion of the greater trochanter, and that is your line where the piriformis runs. Realize to get there, you have to palpate through the gluteus maximus and the adipose over top of the glutes. And yes, no matter how much you diet, how thin you are, there's still going to be adipose over your glutes, and you're palpating through tissue that's probably about that thick, okay? If the person does squats and lifts, if they are thick junk in the trunk, it's going to be even more tissue that you have to go through. So it's very difficult to actually get in and reach piriformis. And again, we have videos on this palpation of it and all that good stuff too. All right, so the motion test, lumbar spine range of motion, you're going to assess it because it's a surrounding area, but it's usually going to be within normal limits. The pain will be worse with traction on the nerve, and that actually is a tricky thing. There's two ways you might see that. Number one, if you do a straight leg raise, but number two, if the person's standing and you have them flex their back forward, those can also lead to increased tightness over top of that nerve. The neurovascular for this is actually usually within normal limits. You don't see a limitation in deep tendon reflexes or loss of pulse or anything like that, or decrease in temperature. Differential diagnosis has to be on your list. Number one, lumbar radiculopathy, whole separate video on that, or I would refer you back to the orthopedic conditions manual. We're taking this information from here as well. Sacroiliac injury or subluxation, possibly, but that would tend to be more pain just around the SI joints themselves. Hamstring strain, you should be a little more inferior, ischial tuberosity and down. Lumbosacral sprain strain, good one, but usually a little bit higher up. Okay. So there's a maneuver called Freiberg's maneuver. And if you look at it, you're bringing your knee up and over across your body. And this forceful adduction with a flexed hip may stretch the piriformis and cause more compression. It is not 100% pathognomonic. In fact, none of the tests really are, but it may be something that could aggravate symptoms. Another one that we're commonly taught in school is Hibb's test, where the patient's laying prone. And as they're laying prone, what do we wind up doing? We take and stabilize the SI joints and put them in the external rotation, again, stretching out that piriformis, theoretically compressing the sciatic nerve and resulting in onset of symptoms. Does it always cause them? No, but would it be a good maneuver for you to do? Absolutely. Could you turn this maneuver into therapy? 100%. Why not go ahead and just anchor over top and do a little bit of pin and stretch action as you're doing this test? Diagnostic imaging is usually not useful unless you're trying to rule out another pathology. MRI for piriformis syndrome is probably going to be overkill, but it may be warranted if you're totally lost or trying to rule out other pathologies. So that's the basics for piriformis syndrome. Now, if we're going to get into the management options, you are looking at physical modalities for the best outcomes, okay? Heat prior to stretching, of course, biopsychosocial support to tell them what's going on with the injury and that it's usually self-limiting. Addressing biomechanical issues and activity modification, or even I find it really beneficial for a lot of people to practice yoga on a regular basis. I will refer you to our yoga book as a good source of information there. For most of us, manual therapies that we're going to be using are going to include things like compensations with Swedish massage, diaphragmatic breathing, myofascial release, but you can also progress into pin and stretch through those short lateral rotators, contract, relax. You can go into deeper massage techniques or instrument-assisted techniques I'm a big fan of if the person can tolerate it. Realize with these instrument-assisted techniques, you get in there really deep and it can be too much for some people. All right, really deep, really specific. Joint mobs are going to be great to help make sure that the pelvis, SI joints, lumbar, and even the hip itself is moving correctly, then you can free up any restrictions you might find there. So again, looking at areas of compensation, electrotherapies can offer benefit, especially TENS in the short term, potentially. You can look at acupuncture points as well. Moving on, diet and botanicals, again, referring to the appendix, or what would I refer you to? I would take you to our nutrition text that you could look into that'll take you through a bunch of anti-inflammatory diets that could potentially be involving and making the symptoms worse. You can also look at medications, but again, these should only typically have a short-term use, okay? So medications or botanicals, just a short-term use. What are you looking at for surgery? Rarely required, but in recalcitrant cases or cases that do not improve over time, where you've tried all of your conservative management strategies and looked at activity modifications, then yes, surgical consultations may be warranted. So rehab program, modify or eliminate aggravating activities. Heat and ultrasound prior to stretching might be a good idea. Consider that contract, relax again. Educate the patient on what's going on here. One of my favorites is you pick the gym ball. It could be a tennis ball, whatever. Get them to cross their leg over and moving back and forth. Pigeon posed, flat pigeon pose, laying on your, like a flat reaching pigeon pose, flat on your back with our standard piriformis stretch. Most clients and patients are not doing this in our office or outside of our offices, so you might be there to supervise them. And again, a good yoga practice can really loosen up tight piriformis and short lateral rotators of the hip. So pretty good condition. It has excellent prognosis for conservative management, especially as the patients are more and more compliant with the treatment protocols. However, it can become chronic if they do not follow these protocols. If they just keep on sitting the same way, not moving their body the way they need to move it for better outcomes, it can start to have more drastic effects on activities of daily living as the years progress on of them dealing with this condition. As you all know, one of the best things we can do for anybody is number one, education. Number two, empower them that it's safe to move. And then number three, encourage that regular movement and activity. And our manual therapies are there to support their better ADLs and movement through daily life. So piriformis syndrome, fantastic condition. Again, often overdiagnosed. Make sure you can palpate the piriformis, look for point tenderness, and look for activity modification or contributing factors that make it worse. And you'll be off to the races to help lots of people with this condition. This picture basically says it all. Just get them to lay out there and moving back and forth. Even squats, lunges, those are all going to be good choices. But again, yoga really lets you explore the dynamic ranges of motion a little bit more. Even a lizard pose, warrior two, all those are going to be involving the short lateral rotators and piriformis to stabilize your position. So Fantastic condition. All right.